Here's the outline of the remarks I'd like to give you today. I'll start with the Great Depression, which was a crisis like the pandemic, which marked a big expansion in the role of governments around the world. I'll turn next to growth policy, which surfaced as a concern in the 1980s. From then until about 2010, the intellectual trend was in the direction of less reliance on the government, more market-led innovation. But the pandemic is one of several bits of evidence which are pointing towards a new race, which will be not towards ever more reliance on the market, but instead towards more effective systems of government. This diagram gives a very broad sketch of some of the trends that we see over time. In the Middle Ages, the nations had strong centralized systems of authority under monarchs or emperors. By the 19th century, the payoff from industrialization rewarded those nations that were quicker to allow decentralized market activity. Then, as I suggested with the Great Depression, we saw a move back towards stronger government to deal with the threats that the Depression had revealed. After the Great Depression, we went through a long period where economic theory became more influential and where governments relied more and more heavily on the market. But as I said, the current pandemic, I believe, will mark a turn back towards more investment in the government, analogous to the investment we saw after the Great Depression. There are policies that a nation can undertake which will lead to faster growth in its underlying potential. There are two good examples of successful growth policies. The first starts back in 1870 in the United States and was part of a series of investments that the nation made in what came to be the most successful system of universities in the world. The second, more recent and very dramatic example was the decision by China to open up to inflows of new technology from the rest of the world in 1980. The market alone does not handle the other two boxes. A government can make the kind of market-friendly investments that the US made, by providing for university education, by subsidizing the research activities of the people who work inside universities, and sending those skilled workers and that new knowledge out into the marketplace to be the raw material that firms use to innovate and pursue new activities. The difficult kinds of decisions are the ones that require a government to say no, to stop private actors from doing things that would generate a profit. And this is why they want to do them, but to stop them nevertheless, because those actions would cause harm to society as a whole. The period from the late 19th century through the middle of the 20th century was a period of remarkable success in the United States, driven by those investments in the market-friendly supporting activities, the universities in particular, and the entire system of education. This led to, for example, the emergence first in the United States of schools of chemical engineering and electrical engineering, which trained a whole new generation of people to go out and build entirely new industries and electrify the nation. But in a sign of something going wrong, since World War II, the US lead in engineering has been diminishing. Moreover, there are many signs that the US government can no longer play this role of saying no to things that are harmful. We've already seen a rise in death rates, a reduction in life expectancy that's due at least in part to government decisions which allowed pharmaceutical firms to sell opioid-based painkillers, which have caused an epidemic of addiction and death. Back in the 1980s, our government was able to stop firms from producing chemicals which were destroying the ozone layer and threatened the whole world. The US government actually led the world in getting all governments to stop firms everywhere from damaging the ozone layer. But now we seem to be incapable of mounting that same effort to stop firms from doing things which are causing global warming. And in the response to the pandemic, the US government deployed those familiar tools of stabilization policy from the Great Depression to deal with the shock that the economy suffered. And even though it had the best system of university-based medical research and health research in the world, the US government did not innovate with policies that could actually stop the spread of the virus. It used traditional policies despite the fact that they were not working. Pragmatic experimentation by government officials in China has been far more effective at actually controlling the spread of the virus and therefore allowing the economy to truly heal. We've done very well around the world by investing in open science of basic research, but the open science of applied technology development, of new engineering knowledge in electrification, in digital electronics, in chemistry. There's every reason for us to keep a commitment to that kind of open discovery that benefits everyone, and to even expand it so that new technologies like artificial intelligence do not simply generate benefits for the few, but because they're open and can be used by everyone, they generate no profit, but enormous social value. So to conclude, technology will drive growth, and the nations that succeed in growing rapidly in the next century will be the ones that are most effective in developing new technologies. But they will not develop those technologies simply by handing off ownership and control to the market. They'll successfully develop beneficial technologies because the government provides investments and subsidies, and because the government says no to things that are harmful, and makes sure that the benefits of transparency and openness lead to faster discovery and a sharing of gains by everyone. Thank you.